This is the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 137. Jason O'Callahan on Hypnotic Fishing Lines.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
And once again, we are reaching out internationally. Hey there, it's Jason Linett, and reaching out across the pond over to Dublin, Ireland, to another Jason, a gentleman by the name of Jason O'Callahan, someone you might not have yet heard of, yet chances are you have seen some of the news stories about Jason over the years. And in this conversation, we're going to get into the origin story in terms of how he transitioned from a successful career working as a journalist, venturing into the fields of psychology, and then arriving inside of hypnosis. And as these powers combine, bringing about this mentality, which definitely comes into the title of this program, of casting out those fishing lines and creating business in places where typically people wouldn't find it. There's an amazing tone of the conversation that we're going to get into that some of you might have a bit of a surprised response to, in the aspect that Jason operates, as you'll hear it, this mindset of the Chinese buffet methodology of booking hypnosis sessions. It's a one-time fee, and you're able to come back as many times as you like. You know, the same way that you can go up and get more of that chicken fried rice as much as you'd like when you're at that Chinese food buffet, which may invoke fear in a lot of this audience, though you're going to hear inside of this a very ethical way in terms of addressing the client responsibility inside of that process and respectfully dangling that carrot in front of the client to really position them for outstanding success, and a full attitude, as we're going to talk about, of transparency. The transparency that's absolutely necessary, I feel, in the beginning to get the client interaction on track for that ultimate of success. That it's within your responsibility to give your client every strategy and every reason as to why they're going to be successful. And at the same time, point out politely the strategies, the mindsets, the things that would not make them effective. So really, we're giving them that tool. Connecting it back to the title of this program, Hypnotic Fishing Lines. We're not just giving them the fish, we're also teaching them to fish. This is becoming a very pescatarian style of podcast intro here, but we're going to keep rolling with it. Be sure to head over to the show notes at worksmarthypnosis.com to get the links to get access to Jason's stage hypnosis website, as well as access to learn more about the D4 Clinic. And when you get there, by the way, make sure you click, I'm on the page right now, on the left column in terms of press area. Some incredible stories that are inside of here that you're going to hear Jason talk about in this conversation, of harnessing stories that are already in the news and then reaching out and using that as a mechanism. So whether it's harnessing the popularity of the remake of Stephen King's It, or specific client successes, as they call it over in Ireland, spaghetti hoops, as we call it over here, SpaghettiOs, getting someone to break that old pattern of being stuck on one specific food, the old picky eater pattern, or even specifically taking one client's success story of overcoming a fear of flying and turning that into a media-worthy mindset. Some outstanding information there. For more on running your business, you can also, of course, head over to hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. This is the entire digital all-access pass to my hypnosis business training library. Everything from search engine optimization, how to build your websites, how to market effectively on Facebook, how to turn live talks and networking into business building opportunities, as well as several done-for-you marketing campaigns, which you can plug into use right away. It's the roadmap behind how I've built 3 separate 6-figure businesses inside of my hypnosis business, and you're able to get access to that right away for just $47. Jump right in at hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. And without further delay, let's jump into this outstanding conversation, which, small little side note, stick with this recording. We had some connectivity issues, as I was calling a cell phone over in Ireland from my computer systems over here. So there are some moments where the audio quality does kind of drop down just a little bit. It's brief. It comes right back again, though the content, the actionable strategies in this conversation with Jason, they are potentially life-changing, provided you put them into use yourself. And with that, let's jump right in. This is session number 137, Jason O'Callahan on Hypnotic Fishing Lines.
So I've been training for around 4 years as a psychologist in Ireland. When I decided, a friend to sort of think that stage hypnosis would be a cool thing to learn, not realizing that clinical and stage hypnosis were completely different. So I did my National Guild training in Ireland around 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, as a night course, just along with another rate of night courses I was doing was part of my degree. I had no idea I'd end up being a full-time. It was just sort of a eureka moment during the training. And I think the eureka moment during the training was when I heard about the gastric band hypnotherapy. That side of things just kind of jumped out at me an awful lot, because once I saw that product idea, I jumped on it, and I made that really the core of my clinic once I started, as soon as I graduated.
Yeah. So what was the path? What was the track that you were originally on before sort of stumbling upon the hypnosis?
I had retired from being a journalist after a decade. I had just finished a degree in psychology, and I was doing a master's in psychology. And I was just planning on becoming, going the route of the clinical psychologist eventually, after my master's. And then I came across hypnosis, a clinical hypnosis, and became sort of completely engrossed in it. And did my master's degree on hypnosis, hypnotherapy for cancer patients. Had to reduce stress in cancer patients, and that's sort of where it began. And then I went to Tampa shortly after that, a year or two in, and trained with Will Horton to get my certificate in my CI certificate. And then it's sort of been a roller coaster since then. Really, I've ditched every other type of therapy I was doing, including counseling and psychotherapy and mindfulness. I've trained in all of them, and now I do 100% clinical and stage hypnosis. That's my full-time gig now.
Yeah, outstanding. So there's a whole bunch of directions I wanted to chat with you inside of this, but I want to go back to that moment where you mentioned, encountering the virtual gastric band. If you kind of had to unpack it now, what was it about an approach such as that you think really grabbed your attention early on?
I think a lot of people who do, I don't have to tell you this, I think a lot of people who do what we do are very good, maybe therapists. They may be very good therapists, they may even be very good at stage, but especially I'm specifically talking about the therapy side of things, which most people will do during the day and then stage stuff at night. And I find that there's an awful lot of very good therapists, but not a very good lot of business people or marketers. So a lot of people who are in this business know the therapy side of things, and they have the most empathetic feelings and the caring and so on. That's brilliant. Mm-hmm. But without sales, you don't have a business. And when I thought of gastric band hypnotherapy in my country, especially in Ireland, UK, I think Paul McKenna had brought out a book in the UK, but he was only bringing it out at that stage, and I was the sort of first to market the gastric band hypnotherapy in Ireland. And I just saw that as a beacon, and I said, this is a good sales way to sell hypnotherapy to people in a sort of package, if you like, rather than saying weight loss hypnotherapy. This was a gastric band hypnotherapy, even though the principles behind it, once I do it on a day-to-day basis, are pretty much the same as any weight loss hypnotherapy, but it makes it easier for the people outside the hypnosis world to understand and to visualize what it is that we do.
Yeah. That in terms of bringing in just that magical element that's going to create some of that shift where, there are some people in our communities that would be very negative about the phrase of somebody having the expectation of some sort of magic wand. But then again, on some small level, that's part of why they're calling a hypnotist.
Exactly. And I think what I've learned in the past 5 years, I would do primarily in my clinic, weight loss and smoking. That's primarily the bread and butter that I do. It would be 40% weight loss, 40% smoking, with 20% of the other stuff, if you want to call it that, selective eating disorder, insomnia, stress management, and so on and so on. So it's a huge part of the business. Now, when you say the magic bullet or the magic wand effect, which a lot of people do think, they'll come in and go, hypnotize me to eat healthy, or hypnotize you to believe I have a smaller stomach, which is fine. But the other side of the coin is that when you do that, there's no point in being hypnotized to eat healthy if you don't know how to cook. There's no point in being hypnotized to eat healthy if you have no healthy food in your house.
Right.
That's great. You can go home and go, I want to eat healthy. So my program that I've developed over the past few years has incorporated the science of weight loss, the educational parts of weight loss, along with the hypnotherapy part to increase the awareness so that people will be aware more and stop eating, stop themselves eating. So it's a whole process that I do now, which mixes the principles of education, behavioral therapy, psychology, and clinical hypnosis. So we would give a whole folder to people, like, I call it a syllabus for people to come in for weight loss. And what we do is it includes food charts to write down it includes recommendations for Netflix, for documentaries on obesity, it includes books that, for cooking, quick 15-minute healthy recipe books and so on. It includes using a blue plate, and the science of the blue plate we found is a great marketing tool as well, because we give every client for weight loss their own, what you would call in America a breakfast size plate, and it has to be a specific color as well. And before you ask why are you giving a blue plate to customer? It's an unusual thing. The reason is it's very, very simple, and I explain it to people. First off, people tend to eat massive portions. Now, I was looking at statistics this morning showing that in America alone, they have the biggest obesity crisis in the world. There's more than, I think, the Irish are around 15th. The Japanese are the skinniest, but the Americans are the biggest. So it's got to do with portion size. So just changing the plate. We give people a smaller plate, which, as I said, if you can imagine, it's not a small side plate. It's not a big dinner plate. It's a breakfast plate. It would be a fish plate the size. I think that's the official name for it. And we would give it to them in a turquoise color. So a very light sort of Tiffany blue, if you want to call it that. That's the color we give. And people say to me all the time, why do you give these people a plate? Or why do you buy them a plate? Surely they can do it. First off, for years we've said to people, buy a small blue plate. They didn't do it. They would come back for sessions a week or a month later and say, I haven't got around to it. So if they cost $1 each, I go and buy a stock of them, keep them in the clinic, and give them to every new client. So they have no excuse. Yeah. The reason why we give them is A, the size, B, because scientifically people eat less food off a blue plate. And you say to me, well, why? You think that doesn't make any sense. Well, you look at the science behind it. We have to look at two things. We look at genetics and we look at evolution. First off, within our genetic factor, we're pre-programmed to overeat because there wasn't food for so long. Now, also, when it comes to the color, if you saw someone a picture someone on the internet of a blue painted chicken, roast chicken that's painted blue, they will immediately balk at the thought of it. The reason is within nature for 10 million years, 100 million years, there was no blue food. There still is no blue food occurring in nature. So as a hunter-gatherer, we never looked for blue food.
And before the critics jump in, blueberries are purple. Go on.
Yeah. Exactly. Blueberries aren't actually, and especially they're not bright blue,
right.
Unless they're radioactive. Bright blue slushies don't count as well.
No, and I'm flashing to, what is it,
However,
the pickles that are sometimes this neon-colored green, which is a color that does not occur naturally either.
Exactly. So if you look at giving someone a smaller portion because they're having a smaller plate, that will help them. Secondly, you give them a blue plate, and the reason we give them the blue plate in that color is because there's no naturally occurring foods in that color, so the brain finds it naturally appetite suppressant. Plus, my own theory as well is that as prehistoric man, when we came across food and the food was rotting, like meat especially, it goes a color of blue. So again, genetically over psychological evolution, we'll see that people would avoid blue food because A, it didn't occur in nature, so they couldn't hunt for it, and B, when they came across meat that was gone off, it went blue. So, and the proof of this, whether people think this is the ramblings of some crazy psychologist in Ireland, is if you look in your own country, if you look at McDonald's, you look at we have Johnny Rockets you would have over there.
Yeah.
If you look at Burger King, if you look at all these chains, KFC, for example, there is not blue in any of the fast food chains. For the exact reason I'm telling you.
I love it.
Stunned silence.
Yeah,
there
the mindset.
Stunned silence. You can Google this. People can Google this.
Jason, I've heard you talk on it before. I wanted to share the story. But inside of it, though, what I love about that is that mindset that, yes, there's the aspect of the subconscious reprogramming by way of hypnosis, but at the same time, there has to be that element of, changing that environment. I love what you said around, here's a client I had in the office the other day that I'm just listening to the dynamic of what's in the house, and basically to build that environment for success. It's that old phrase that there's no change without change. So to start to shift that environment on one side of things, let me ask you this. Inside of your sessions, are these things that now you're using the hypnosis to then reinforce as a conscious hook, or are these entirely secondary to the hypnosis, would you say?
I consider anyone who comes to, and we're talking specifically, I personally have lost over 30 pounds using these methods myself over the past 5 years, and kept the weight off. And that's sort of, I was the canary in the coal mine, if you want to call it that. I have a blue plate in my own house. I use a food diary for my own food. I listen to hypnosis directly or indirectly every day. I learned to cook. Again, there's no point in sitting at home and saying, right, I got to eat healthy food. I should be eating the stir fries. I should be eating the salads. I should be drinking more water. But then you go to the cupboard and all you've got is cookies and chocolate bars. So that's not going to work. There has to be the practical side of it. And that's why I would say, especially therapists who are working in the weight loss field, and a lot of therapists we know from conventions don't want to do it because it's so hard, but it's highly lucrative. And it's there's a lot of demand that you know how to do correctly. Another method that I use, and I talked about this when I was in Boston recently at the convention, was I use what's called the Chinese restaurant buffet method. And people again ask, what's he talking about? This is the one price. I think Robert in San Francisco might use something similar, but I know we're the only two people who do this. We charge one price, and it's unlimited sessions, but it's results driven for weight loss. So clients have to lose a certain amount of pounds in between sessions if they want to come back and continue the program. So from a business point of view, it's a very unique model, but it's a very efficient model.
Yeah. So then how frequently are people coming back to you then inside of that?
It goes in. That would be, some people have said to me in therapy, well, they're coming back all the time. Your diary is full of people who aren't paying. Not at all. It works in three categories. I will say to people, you can break it at the 100 people that will come in as clients into three categories. The first third of people will come in. They will pay the full fee in advance. That's the rules. They will get their plate. They will get their instructors. They will do hypnosis. We record all sessions, put it on people's phones. And then they're told, right, go off and start living the life that we showed you today, start following the hypnosis, doing everything. And we may never hear from them again. That's it. They paid, they've gone. I met a guy recently at a wedding who had lost 60 pounds and had just done one session with us. Because we record the hypnosis, they do it again and again at home, you see. They don't need to keep coming into the clinic every day or even every week because the hypnosis is recorded. So they will redo the session at home. And combine, and that's fine, and that's a portion of people. Second portion of people will come back in, maybe 3 or 4 sessions over a number of months, maybe 6 months to 12 months. And then you've got people who come in more frequently, So it works and they're the people who sort of will have lost 60 pounds, 70 pounds, 80 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds. But what we do with them is if they hit those type of targets after 6 months or a year, we will refund them their fee in order for them to become sort of ambassadors for the clinic, so we can use them in our media, on our website, so they lose the weight, then they get their money back as well.
I love that. So the mindset that, again, Chinese buffet, as you've branded it, that they can keep coming back for more. But again, I love that nuance that they're able to rebook that next session provided they've lost the weight. So you're dangling that carrot and also
exactly.
putting that.
We usually say around 5 pounds, which isn't much. It would be sort of £1 a week, which isn't really much to ask in general. If you kind of cut your calories down and you kind of do a bit of walking and, cut back on your sugar and junk food, it's not that hard, especially if you're someone who's slightly heavier in weight.
Well, especially in the early stages, as they're kicking off, there's a lot more weight to be lost, and it's easier to see those bigger numbers in the early days.
Exactly. And then by the time they're getting down to the smaller numbers, they've already changed the behavior. So it continues. But the reason was because for so many years, you would get people in, you would do the standard sort of 3 sessions over 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And on the second session, they'd come out in the door and they'd say, how are you doing? And they'd go, I'm not doing well. It's not working for me. And the first question you ask is, are you doing hypnosis and everything that I showed you at home? Oh, no, I haven't had a chance. So my line to those people is that could be equivalent of you going to the gym, paying your membership, not going to the gym for a month, and then coming back to the gym a month later complaining that the gym doesn't work. You cannot lose weight with hypnosis if you do not do hypnosis. It doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. I love that phrasing of it in terms of, it's a tool, but you've got to put the tool into use is the phrasing that I'd often use.
Yeah,
What
you
what
can
I'd be
sign up to a
curious.
college
Okay.
course, but
Yeah.
unless you study, you're not going to pass. Just signing up to the course doesn't automatically mean you're going to get the qualification. So that's a personal responsibility. And what's interesting is we brought that ideology to our Stop Smoking program, and we've done the same thing very successfully. Because we found, again, that any therapists who've been doing this over the years have said, right, here's the price, you stop smoking. If you have a problem, we might give you one free session.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I was taught. Now, what we've done is we've introduced in Europe one session to start off with, obviously one price, but you can have unlimited follow-up sessions. This takes away another excuse. The other excuse is it didn't work for me, or it stopped working after 6 months. What happens is, if it's free to come back, it can't fail. Because the only way it would fail is if you didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cost, you see. And again, that method is very unique as well. You're getting a full fee at the start. You're saying to people, we'll give you as many sessions as you want. All you got to do is want to quit. So they have no get out of jail card. They can't just go, oh, that didn't work. Because if your husband or wife came home and said, I did hypnosis, oh, it worked for 3 months, then it stopped working, they can just say, well, you can go back. It's free, isn't it? So the people who want to quit will come back, and people who really didn't want to quit don't. And there's nothing we can do for them anyway because they didn't want to quit.
So let me ask you this, because I always love to go inside of the actual thinking inside of it. Were these ideas that you had when you first launched and opened up, or did they evolve out of necessity, or what was kind of the workshopping to get to the style of working with people?
I would consider myself a 50% a psychologist, hypnotist, and 50% a salesperson and marketer. And that's a balance that's essential. And as I said, it's a personal thing. I don't want people coming back in every week saying this isn't working for me, wasting my time, and them doing absolutely nothing. So it's born out of necessity. And as well, it's born out of sales. Because people will say, can you tell me what the numbers, how successful is weight loss? Or how successful is smoking? And my line is, well, if you do what I show you, you lose the weight. However, if you do nothing at all, well, then you won't lose the weight. And that's a fair assessment for these people as well. It's I'll do my part, if you do your part, and I'll stick with you for as long as you need if you do your part. There's no, in 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, if you slip up with smoking, you call me, you come back in, it's free. If you don't call me, there's nothing I can do. And equally the same to weight loss. If you do what I show you, you'll start to lose weight. You'll keep losing weight. If you don't bother doing the hypnosis, well, what's the point in coming back into my clinic to do another session if you haven't even done the first session?
Right. So what I love about that is bringing in that client accountability. There's a whole sequence that I do. Yeah, there's a whole sequence that I do.
You can't outsource your health.
Right.
That's my line. You can't say to someone, here's a couple of $100, make me skinny. And they go home and they don't do anything. That's not the way it works. You know what I mean? And it takes confidence as a therapist to say that to people, to say, like, you gotta pull your boots up here, because I'm not going to do it for you. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah, I'd comfortably share there's a similar style that I'd use at times in terms of putting that accountability on the individual. And there's two sides of this. One that some people would hear as a negative, though really it's coming at from the most positive way possible, that if there ever is a moment that a client is perhaps stalling out, not quite getting the results that they're looking for, it becomes a moment where my goal is to fully engage them back into the process, to actually put this stuff all into use. Where, one person on a negative perspective would say that, oh, that way they don't use the strategy and that way they have the blame elsewhere, which is not the intention. That the more we draw them back in, so that even inside of a client session, middle of the work, you're not interacting with me. I can tell you're kind of passively going through the motions. That's a moment where we're going to shift that physiology. Well, great. Stand up. Let's do this. Well, great. Move over here. Let's do that now. Just re-engage them inside of that.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100%. You got to put in responsibility.
Absolutely.
You got to put in responsibility for people, and you got to, they've got to pull their part as well, because a lot of people, as you say, they just want to come in and pay you money and say, right, make me skinny, make me this, or you can't, I bet you can't make me stop smoking. I'm like, yeah, I can't. You're right. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I can't make you stop smoking. You have to want to stop smoking. And if you want to stop smoking, I will work with you as your partner. And my line would often be to people, look, if you fail, I fail. if you succeed to stop smoking, you're going to tell everybody how you stop. So I succeed. And again, as I said, I just say to people, like, I'm not a psychic. You know, if you do slip up, one guy gave us a bad review on our Facebook page, a 2-star review, and he said our clinic had poor follow-up for his smoking. Now, this guy came in, stopped smoking, did a video that said how he stopped smoking. He works across the road from our clinic in a hair salon, because I got a sister off cigarettes, I knew where he worked. And he gave us a 2-star review saying he had poor follow-up on his smoking. Like, in other words, he'd probably slipped up and gone back smoking and not told us. So we either have to have mystical powers that we can guess that at some stage he decided to start smoking, and then we were supposed to figure that out somehow without knowing. So, this is the type of thing you have to deal with, that people actually do slip up and then they don't tell you and then give you a bad review because they slipped up and didn't tell you. So, and it's free to come back. So, like I said, it's a great protection for the therapist, because the therapist can go, but it's free. It's free to come back. All you got to do is call us. It's free to come back, and they don't call, and that's the way it works. So it gets you
on the either the smoking or the weight loss in this model. Is there a story perhaps of a specific client where even you were a bit surprised in terms of where the process took them?
If I'm honest, I don't really get into sort of the emotional side of it as much as maybe as I should, as in sort of, I'm overeating because my dad didn't talk to me when I was 4. I really just look. I'm not really into the retrospective. I'm more into the futuristic. I'm looking at look, you've tried this, and you've tried this, and you've tried this, and you've tried this, and nothing's worked. So let's just leave the past where it is and try and concentrate on re-education, and trying to get you to understand what you've been doing wrong, and to also take responsibility for it and say, look, whatever happened to you, it's sad that happened when you were a child or whatever, but it's not really going to fix the problem. So now we need to move forward. And that's really, I suppose, a difference in my practice. Even though I'm trained as a psychologist, I don't do counselling. I'm not really, within the realms of the clinic I will, but not on a one-to-one sort of counselling sessions and to try and help people understand why they're overeating. That's not really what I do. It's more just about the practical side of things, the hypnotherapy part of things, the education part of things, the behavioral therapy side of things. That's really what I try and focus on. Yeah,
well, it becomes that mindset that there might be some backstory there yet, to instead let everything become that catalyst, let everything become that asset. The same map into the problem is often the same map out of it.
Exactly. So it's just a case of moving forward. An awful lot of people will blame everybody that they're overweight, or blame everybody that they can't stop smoking. And I think the key is, as a therapist, you've got to know, you've got to take responsibility yourself, the person. And you've got to say to them, the first step in this journey is you've got to understand you're the one who's going to stop you smoking. You're the one who's going to help you to lose the weight. You know what I mean? The therapist is there to help you, understanding that hypnotherapy or any therapy is a complementary therapy, which complements what you're already doing. But it is not a replacement therapy. It can't just make you skinny when you don't do anything on your side of things. You have to look at the whole aspect of your life of, education, diet, exercise. You have to understand how your body works and what you need to do, as well as tackle the psychology, which the hypnotherapy does.
Which it becomes that moment that so many people in hypnosis, I mean, briefly, there's a quick story of local hypnotist calls me up. I've got someone coming in for sugar addiction. We're on our 4th session dealing with forgiveness, and she won't forgive her father of this event when she was 10 years old. What do you think I should do? And the response was, well, I think you should work with her on the sugar issue. Deal with what came into the office first of all. I mean, just yesterday, here's a weight loss client that came in, and the whole story was this recent breakup, which, yes, connect with the client. Yes, get some of the story. Yet it just took that one pointed question of going, now the weight was still an issue even before you met this guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And that's exactly what I'm saying, is that you can get too deep into something, and that's not the role of the hypnotherapist, unless you're a counselor or so on. Like, that can be, we leave that to the counselors and the CBT therapists who will see somebody for 10 weeks discussing probably the same thing all the time. Our job, I feel, as a therapist, my job is to get results. And even at that, I probably do myself out of a lot of business, because I will say to people, they come into me for insomnia or anxiety. I'd say, let's just do one session. Let's do one session. We'll record it. You go home, listen to it for a few weeks, see how you find it. If it's all you need, great. If you feel you need another session, great. If you feel it's not doing anything for you, don't come back. I'm not going to do, financially it'd probably work out better, but I don't need the money that much that I want to be seeing the same person for 6 weeks, charging them $100 a go, and then 6 weeks later to go, well, I feel exactly the same, and they badmouth you in your clinic. I'd rather get results and keep getting results, or not take the client at all. But that's just the way I operate. And I find it works well because I have a sort of no BS attitude, and they know that as well, where I do come across a lot of therapists, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, that there's some of the people who come in and say, I've done 8 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy, didn't make a difference. I did 8 weeks, 6 months of counseling, didn't make a difference. I actually felt worse afterwards because they said, open these childhood wounds. So I'm a firm believer that hypnotherapy can help people in a quick and effective way rather than a long, drawn-out way, which just benefits mostly the counselor rather than the patient.
Which that's the element that I really want to highlight here, that there are some people who would listen to what we've talked about so far of you can come back for additional sessions once you've lost this benchmark in terms of losing weight.
Yeah.
You can come back for the stop smoking provided you've done these things, which there would be some that would just invoke fear within the practitioner of, no, I can't do that. No, I shouldn't do that. Yet there's a real element of transparency inside of how you're approaching this around, well, here are the principles. It's the metaphor that I always use is that you can't go buy a hammer and try to return it and say it didn't work. The tool's only as good as we put it into use. And
another issue there, which is a topic exactly on what you're talking about, is the issue of refunds. Now, I'm specifically talking now about smoking, and I've had to learn this myself, and I've only recently introduced this. What I found was I've had to, over the past 5 years, refund maybe 5 people, maybe 6, who are just, being the type of clientele that you probably shouldn't have dealt with in the first place, and who make no effort at all, and just like within the day ringing you saying, I want my money back, it didn't work. Now, looking at the fact the first instrument I give them is a recording of their own session to do it for 2 weeks to try and reinforce it. So what I've had to do, and the thing about it is, someone said this to me, and it was like a light bulb moment. They said, well, how do you know it didn't work? They could still be off cigarettes. I had a woman who actually came to me, stopped smoking with me, rang me 5 days later because she wasn't happy with the customer service. I said, what do you want me to do? Stop you smoking again? I can only do it once, She was still off cigarettes, but she wanted more follow-up or more interaction with me, more time, more phone calls. And because I didn't have every day to talk to her on the phone, she was like, she wasn't happy with the service, even though I had stopped her smoking. So what I've learned to do now is I have a contract in my office for the smokers, and they sign it, and the contract says, I understand by doing this that I can get unlimited sessions, but there's no refund under any circumstance, because you have got unscrupulous people who will stop smoking, but may claim to still be smoking so they can get a refund.
No, it's that element of transparency that, as they're hearing the sort of, wide open honesty inside of it, that this is what the approach is, this is what the rules are. There's some that I would say haven't even started their own businesses out of the fear of what if someone says this, what if someone says that, which the simplest thing is just simply practice clean, be ethical in your approach, be open and honest. And it's where on a phone call, I might tell someone every reason why they're going to be successful, but also in the same format as you, give them the criteria as to what's not going to make it work. So here's your part of it, which for the most part, that person who would be, again, the phrasing of shouldn't have taken even in the first place, they're just not going to book generally as long as that's presented.
Yeah, they'll say, I'll have a look and ring you back if you're blunt with them. And that's, you're better off for you and you're better off for them. And another aspect on that subject is clients who you just can't help. I don't tend to see children. It's not my specialty. I don't tend to see women with, maybe female issues. That is not my specialty. I have a sort of niche of certain things that I will do. And it's very ethical that you have to understand what you can do, what you can't do, and also how hypnosis can help, and also how it can't help. So people ringing up who are chronic alcoholics, and they should be in a rehab center. One session of hypnosis isn't really for them. Whereas if somebody rings and says, "Okay, I'm drinking a little bit too much wine at the weekend. I'm not alcoholic. I just want to cut out the wine and cut back the wine." Well, hypnotherapy can help. But it's very important to know the difference. And recently I was invited into the Psychology Society of Ireland to do a lecture for continual professional development for the clinical psychologists. And it's the first time ever that they've allowed a clinical hypnotist in to talk to them, to give these CPD points, which are points they have to accumulate every year, doctors and psychologists, to keep their license. to do that. And they sat in a room and they watched me do the lecture, and they said that's what they were looking for, is to say not so much what hypnotherapy could help them with, but also what it couldn't help them with, and the ethics behind that. Because we all have come across life coaches and therapists who are claiming, they can cure cancer with this therapy or the other therapy, so it's very important to be clean and ethical as well.
Outstanding. So setting aside the clinic that you're running, what would you say has been the most effective thing in terms of getting your name out there, getting people to discover you, and actually getting them in the office to quit smoking or get their blue plate?
Well, I suppose my background as a journalist, as I said, I was a very prominent journalist in my own country for a long, long time until I went back to college. So I would sort of say that would be my sort of unique selling point in the clinic, is that I'm able to generate within the past day or so. I've generated in the region of $50,000 to $100,000 of free publicity for my clinic, by piggybacking on a story that's come out of Japan about smokers being offered extra days, non-smokers, should I say, in companies being offered extra days, holidays, to make up for the time that smokers take on smoke breaks. So I sort of reissued a press release saying that companies in Europe, and again I'll probably do it in America and everywhere, saying that companies need to look at this. I've learned methods, and I have methods in place in my marketing team that can get a press release out to everybody in the media, both in Ireland and England and further afield. We actually ended up in a meeting in California yesterday as well. With these type of, coming up with an angle. And once you come up with an angle, you get your name out there. Once you get your name out there, you become the expert in that field, in whatever, in whatever state you're in, whatever county you're in, whatever city you're in. It's really about marketing yourself as the expert. And also, I think as well, we've expanded and we're expanding more every single week. This week we're expanding into small businesses, therapists, how they can get free marketing, free publicity. Last week we're doing mental health talks in city councils and in pharma companies. We have another partnership within Ireland and England with online sales. We sell our programs at discounted rates, online audio programs. We have sessions on our website which can be downloaded anywhere in the world. So it's about having a lot of irons in the fire, including stage hypnosis, including corporate speaking, including marketing. There's so many different things that we can do with clinical hypnosis, if you know how to do it and if you can market yourself in that way.
Yeah, on the media side, what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions that people would have in terms of reaching out and getting that news story out there?
It's really, I suppose, as a former journalist, I would say to any therapist or any person who's in business listening, that you really got to look at the story from an editor's point of view. It's not about, Mary the hypnotist in Cleveland is great and you should write about her because she's a really nice person. You've got a really clever trick is to set up your Google alerts with the words clinical hypnosis, hypnotherapy. What that means is that anytime any words, any stories around the world come up on Google, on news feeds, that you can take that story. So, for example, what I would be doing if I was in America now is I would be looking at the Japanese story and I would be issuing a press release in Cleveland or New York or Los Angeles or even all over America. And I would be saying, eminent clinical hypnotist, Jason says that American companies need to follow the Japanese leads and give 6 days leave for every non-smoker to make up for the time the smokers are on the smoke breaks. Now, you're not bringing this into your company. You're just saying they should follow the lead. That's a topic. It's a hot topic. Smoking is always a hot topic. Employment relations, health, mindfulness, all the stuff in the employment sphere is really a hot topic. And it's the type of thing that chat shows want to talk about. It's the type of thing that gets people commenting on Facebook and on forums. And it's, radio shows and that's a way of gaining. As I said, we've gained around £100,000 worth of free publicity in the past 2 days. Just by this method, tagging onto something, making yourself the expert, and then getting it out there, figuring out a system in your office that you can get it out there to your local media and get you on radio, get you known, get you as the expert within your field and within your wider audience of your, not just your county, your city, but also your country. So that's what I would say is a really good trick for people to do.
Yeah, that the biggest thing is, again, going back to the mindset of the editor that, it's one of my catchphrases when I'm talking on the business side, which is that nobody wants your newsletter. I'm going to send you something just because it's Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to, here's this really hot story and here's an interesting twist.
Again, as I said, as a journalist for years, the last thing people want, that can be a local newspaper, it can be a national or international newspaper, it doesn't matter. All they want is something that's unique and special, you know what I mean? So you need to target your audience. You need to find out what you're doing. You got to come up with an angle. You need to make it a little bit controversial. Because if you make it a little bit controversial, then people will find, they want to talk about it. It will really bring up a focus. Really bring up a focus. That's really what you're looking at, and that's what that's really, I think, what you need to focus on is learning those methods, how to do that, how to get it out there. So that's what I suppose that's the best tip I can give people is another way I've done it is rather than hiring expensive PR companies, make a list up, spend an hour or two on your computer, get a list of all the media in your area, all the local newspapers, all the mainstream newspapers, all the radio stations, get a list and put together an email of 100 different media outlets and have it on your desktop. So all you got to do is cut and paste those email addresses into any email, BCC them to send the email to yourself and BCC it to all these media companies with a press release, and that's how you get the publicity, and that's how you become the expert. And when you look at people who are very prominent with this in the hypnotic world, people like Richard Barker, there's another guy, Eric, in Sweden, who's generating huge amounts of publicity. Me and him would come up with ideas all the time. We did publicity all over the place in September for the movie It. We tagged onto that, helping people with a fear of clowns. A few months before that, we did publicity for the movie Get Out, the hypnosis scene in that. We get on TV and radio talking about that. We're now doing it again, as I said today, we're doing it with the smoking. I've got 3 or 4 other ideas we're working on, and we're also expanding our press coverage into the UK more, and eventually I'm going to be expanding it into America to get more publicity over there as well. So you better watch out. You're doing so quickly.
Well, there's so much opportunity out there. There's still not enough of us to help all of those, as I say, the muggles out there. So spreading that awareness, and it's where, again,
people don't understand it. I think it's important as well, as therapists and as hypnotists, that we explain also the clear differences between what a stage hypnotist does, or even if it's the same person. But I would say to people, I do stage hypnosis, but I will never, we don't do anything like that in the clinic, In the clinic, I strictly do progressive relaxation. On stage, I do instant induction. So it's a completely different thing. You try to explain to them the principles behind and the differences between the two different types of hypnosis, And that's what I find is a very clear-cut definition between the two types of hypnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, briefly on the stage hypnosis, there's a market that you mostly work within that many people don't. Tell us more about doing hypnosis shows at weddings.
Yeah, well, so I paid my way through college. As I said to you, an interesting backstory is while I was a journalist, I started working as a musician just to pay, make extra money the weekends. And I did that all the way through college when I quit journalism. So I did weddings, playing in a wedding band. Now, I don't know what the scenario is in the States, but in Ireland, there's a huge market for weddings. Like the average spend in an Irish wedding would be between $20,000 and $30,000. That's the average spend. Guests would be anywhere between 80 and 250. So it's a big business, and we get a lot of Americans coming back to Ireland to get married in our castle and so on. So it's a big business. Nearly every wedding that I've ever appeared on or been on as a guest and performed with my band, that's over 1,000 weddings, have always just had a band and DJ. That tends to be the way it works in Ireland. Our weddings are a lot later than you guys in America, I know that, but we would have sort of, the band would go on at sort of 9:30, they'd finish at 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then a DJ would play at 2 in the morning. That's the format of Irish weddings. When the meal is finished, while the band is setting up, there's this lull, if you want to call it that. Okay, they finish the speeches, they finish the meal, it's 7:15 or 8:30, the band bring their gear in, they start testing and sort of getting their equipment in. And all the guests are sitting there bored beyond belief. So I developed a thing called a wedding hypnotist, and I talked recently to some very well American hypnosis experts, and they were just blown away for this. Some of these people have been doing hypnosis for 40 or 50 years and have never, ever even come across this idea. And I said, but this is a difference. Everybody I've come across in the entertainment industry wants to be famous. So they will actually do gigs to get them, they want to do theaters, they want to do Vegas, they want to do this, they want to do that. But the problem with an awful lot of that market is ticketing events is that you don't get paid, or you'll get paid last, or there's a whole lot of things you got to worry about. Is there going to be people in the venue and so on? Even the biggest names have to worry about that today. And the Mark Savards and the Kevin Levains and all these people, they've got at nights where it's not as busy. And if you're on a sort of four wall where you're just renting the room, or you're trying to sell tickets to the local club, you got to worry about these things. The wedding market. I turn up at a wedding at 8 o'clock in the evening, 8:30. I put 15 chairs on the dance floor. I do my routine. I get my volunteers. I put my people under. I do 40 minutes of hypnosis. 9:30, I finish. Boom, envelope of cash. I'm gone. There's no posters, no advertising. There's no PR. There's no worry about ticket sales. There's nothing. There's no late nights. There's little or no equipment. Do you know what I mean? And it's a unique and special thing. And I've got roughly in the region of 60 weddings already, 60 shows already booked in for next year, and going into 2019. And I only started doing stage hypnosis 3 years ago next month.
I love it.
So
I love it.
It's a record that nobody can come close to. And we're already expanding into other parts of Europe, Spain, England, and so on, into the wedding market there, into the event market there, because it's wide open. And again, if you're a stage hypnotist, you've got this whole market in America. You're all going after the college market and the fair market and a couple of the corporate gigs. Nobody's going after the wedding market. And it's ready. It's there. It's a unique and special product that you can bring to a wedding market. It's a very specific advertising channel that you go into. People who are getting married, you promote it on your Facebook page, good funny videos, boom, and you can generate a huge income doing even more than one a night, which I've done maybe 2 to 3 weddings in a night.
Which the beautiful thing inside of all of this, whether it's the clinic that you run, whether it's the news media that you've obtained, or even the stage hypnosis, that to never be in that place of just sitting around hoping the phone will ring, that the actor, comedian Kevin Pollak has a line that I live by, that if you're not creating, you're waiting. And instead, get out there, create the business.
And that's the problem. That's the difference between winners and losers. That's the difference between hustling. Like, I consider myself, I would say, within the business field of hypnosis, as you say, whether it be online, whether it be on stage, whether it be in the clinic, whether it be seminars, or whether it be media, it doesn't matter. I consider myself a fisherman. That's what I would say. People say, well, what do you mean a fisherman? I said, I just sit every day and I put lines in the water. I'm throwing lines into the water. I'm throwing lines into the water. Every email is a line into the water. Every call, every Facebook message, it's a line into the water. Some of them will just come back and there'll be nothing. They won't even respond. And that's just the way it is. Other times, people will bite. And that's really what the key is that you'll be surprised. They said you could release a press release every week and get nothing out of it. And then you send one and it goes viral like this one did. The same one happened to me around 4 months ago. We did a wedding video where you probably heard of the fighter, the Irish fighter Conor McGregor. He's huge online. He's huge everywhere around the world. We did a wedding in Ireland where we hypnotized this kid to say, when you open his eyes, your favorite celebrity's going to be in the room. And of course, his favorite celebrity is Conor McGregor. And this guy just ran around the ballroom in this hotel in Ireland looking for Conor McGregor in the toilets and under the table. And then we sort of pointed out some guy in a bikie bow, and it was a friend of his, but he didn't recognize him. He thought it was Conor McGregor. And started running around the venue chasing his friend. And we had a video guy with us. We got it on video. We sent it out to the media, and it went global. We're getting paid now through one of the website companies for the rights to that video on YouTube. So, we might get a few $100s a month from the rights to this video because they're selling it. They're selling it, as a sort of booper clip, around the world. So there's all these different markets that you can get into, but it's about the fishing lines. You know what I mean? You got to throw the fishing lines and throw the fishing lines and throw the fishing lines in, and all you need is one to stick. Like for me, it was the weddings. You know what I mean? The wedding one stuck, and we're generating huge income out of it. For the weight loss and smoking clinic, that stuck. That worked. For this thing this week with the smoking, that stuck, with the media. So, a lot of them won't bite. You won't get bites on a lot of them, but the ones you do get really pay off. You only need to get one or two to have a very comfortable life.
Outstanding. Fantastic having you on here, Jason. Where can people find you online?
So you can have a look at that there. My website is jasonocallaghan.com. That's for my stage and my blogs and things like that. And then www.d4, that's the letter D, the number 4, clinic.ie is my clinic website. So we have 2 websites there, one for my personal and stage and one for my clinic. And also you can look up my name, Jason O'Callaghan, on Facebook as well. And other social media, you'll find me, no problem as well.
Outstanding. And we'll put links to those over in the show notes over at worksmarthypnosis.com as well. Jason, thanks for being on here.
Thank you, Jason, for having me.
Well, that was Jason O'Callahan. And once again, this is Jason Linett. Thank you so much for interacting with this program, for sharing it online and leaving your feedback over on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, basically every podcasting medium that's out there. And once again, head over to hypnoticbusinesssystems.com, where you get the all-access behind-the-scenes pass to my Netflix for Your Hypnosis Business Training Library. Learn what works. Learn what doesn't work. Learn from the mistakes that I've made over the years so you're able to jump in and start building that profitable, successful business right away. Join our community over at hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. See you on the inside.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at worksmarthypnosis.com.
Hey there, it's Jason, and I want you to be one of the first to find out as we upload amazing new content. So do this right now. Click the subscribe button right here on this video. That's going to link you to our YouTube channel here, and you will be the first to find out as new resources and downloads are made available. Do it now.